Welcome to Small Biz, Big Wins, where every episode is a new journey into the heart of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Summer Poquette, here to navigate the thrilling world of small business with you. Each week, we dive into the inspiring stories and joyful triumphs of real business owners. Get ready to be empowered with actionable advice, and most importantly, celebrate the spirit of small business. Let's dive into how every small victory shapes your big success. This is Small Biz, Big Wins. Let's make it happen. If you've ever dreamed of leaving your corporate job to start a business, this is the episode for you. On today's episode of Small Biz, Big Wins, I'm talking to my friend and fellow entrepreneur, Christy Smith. She owns a small town coffee shop called North Perk in the heart of downtown Petoskey. I think it's some of the best coffee in town, and there is a reason. Christy has invested her time, her energy, her personal savings into learning everything she can about coffee and making sure what she serves is only the best. She wasn't always a coffee connoisseur. She spent years in the corporate world of advertising, but instead of me telling you how cool her story is, let's jump into today's interview. Welcome, Chrissy. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I know. I'm excited to share your story with everyone. So many people dream of leaving their 9-to-5 job to own their own business. You essentially did that. So tell us a little bit about your work history, your experience, and really how you came to buy North Perk.
Well, it all kind of started with COVID. I've spent 30 years in consumer marketing and event marketing specifically. So when COVID hit, I was working on a live tour for Activision Blizzard, and it got canceled like many of the other programs around the country. So kind of looking to just restart. The opportunity to buy North Perk came about, and I thought once I retire, I was planning to move up to Petoskey area anyway, so I decided why not try something different. So I decided to, with my father, purchase the business and learn all about making coffee. I wasn't exactly sure where the journey would take me, but I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. I mean, kind of probably a little scary. COVID itself was scary, right? And
Yeah.
then you'd been doing something for so long and all of that had changed. You couldn't have events the way we were used to having them in the corporate world. And so to just go into buying a small business, I can imagine that was a little, gave you some butterflies. Like, is this the right decision?
Yeah, it was certainly intimidating. And I also wasn't exactly sure when things started to open back up in the advertising and marketing business, there was certainly a lot of jobs then. So I was like, do I go back or do I just keep on this path? So I decided I was kind of done hopping agencies and thought I'd just try this full time, and I love it.
That's awesome. So with all of your corporate experience and different agencies you've worked with and different events and everything, how did all of that experience, I mean, what you said, 30 years of experience doing that, how did that prepare you for running this coffee shop?
Well, a couple things. I've always had sort of an entrepreneurial spirit. I like being my own boss. I like being in control of my destiny. And I was part of a group that opened an agency back in 2000. So it was grassroots, ground up. And I also started out my career as a project manager. So that taught me a lot about budgeting, managing teams, hiring, being really organized and stuff like that. So I really applied a lot of those things in my background to running the business in terms of hiring, managing the teams, being organized, the budgets and the financial side of the business. And then also the consumer marketing side, just being around retail events a lot, consumer marketing, branding, all of that I sort of apply to my business on a day-to-day basis. I think I drive my team a little crazy sometimes with the aesthetics and the branding and what doesn't look good, but I definitely love consumer marketing and branding. So I think there's an opportunity to apply that to small business.
Absolutely. And of course, if you were managing projects, you were probably managing teams. So you have that experience, and now you're working with a small team. Is it different in the terms of, in the corporate world and advertising, you're working with a lot of professionals and older people and people with degrees, and now you're managing kind of a younger team. It's a coffee shop. Do you think that it makes it more challenging for you?
Sometimes I do love the young the young folks, and I like mentoring them and talking to them about like their future and they're going to college. And because a lot of the team that I managed were always in their 20s and early 30s.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like I've pretty set up to do that. And I really, really enjoy the young folks. And yes, it definitely has their challenges at times. Like when I'm texting the team at 9, 10 o'clock because, the corporate world doesn't really turn off. I have to be reminded like, hey, these are kids and they're not working anymore. So leave them alone.
Yeah. What they're
That's,
probably on their devices, no doubt, but they're probably on Snapchat or TikTok
yeah.
and not texting. I know
And
my
they
own
don't,
kids.
and they don't want to hear from their boss. So
And you have two teenagers, so that kind of helps you understand a little bit
yeah,
more about working. And I have to say, every time I go in, they are very well trained. They are so friendly and helpful, and so you definitely do a good job at
thank
making
you.
sure that they are taking that customer service to the next level.
Yeah. And part of my background was these live events where you were so consumer facing and we would have
Mm,
to train folks. You're in a fishbowl. Everyone's listening to what you have to say. Every person has a choice to be here or not be here. You have to make everybody feel special. So I absolutely apply that to the team every day. I remind them, people have a choice where they go. They're always sitting there watching you make the coffee and listening to everything you say. So we really try to instill that high level of customer service. So, and I
yeah,
learned that from working mostly with the Ford group and auto shows and stuff like that.
that's amazing. It definitely shines through for sure because
Thank you.
when they are making their coffee, your coffee, when you place an order, you can hear everything. So if
Yeah.
they're complaining about somebody or they're, complaining about the machine or talking bad about the
Yeah.
boss, like those are things that we will hear and it gets, nobody, like you said, everyone has a choice. There is competition in the area and so
Yeah.
you have to be conscious of that for sure.
Definitely.
What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced transitioning from being an employee to an entrepreneur?
I think just sometimes I would get, I don't mind the hard work. I don't mind the 24/7. I'm thinking about the business all the time. I think some of the positives are that I'm not getting emails from clients at 9, 10, 11 at night. Um, but I think sometimes I think when you're a small business in a small town, um, I get you're sensitive to the community at a much higher level, which I love. When you're in corporate America and stuff like that, you're not really involved beyond the office.
Got
I
it.
think that's really special. It also takes a lot more mindfulness of everything you're doing,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, it does. Was it different going from, I mean, an office setting to where now your office is a table in the coffee shop? Like,
Yeah,
is that different?
definitely different. I like it. I like the it's a more physical um, environment, which I really like. And then I just love being out and about more. You get sort of
Mhm.
stuck on your laptop and, your agency, you're just working on the laptop all day. So I absolutely love the difference in being more active, more vocal, more hands-on. I like making the coffee. I love waiting on the customers. It's really fun.
Which that brings up an interesting point is that before, like you said, you were on your laptop a lot. Now as a business owner, you're doing everything from putting together the grinders and learning about the coffee and
Yeah,
doing everything, whether it's taking out the garbage. Like, so was that a huge transition or you kind of welcomed that, like, this feels good, this is fun?
I welcomed it. I love it. I'm always the girl taking out the garbage or wiping the garbage cans. People come up to me and say, "I can tell you're the owner because you're wiping the garbage cans." So I I love it. I think it's just fun and hands-on and it's your baby, so you really try to make it shine and straighten everything constantly and it's
Yeah.
been really fun. Very different. I mean, there's certain parts of the event and marketing world I miss. Sort of the rush of being at an event and seeing the end result, but this is much more fulfilling.
Yeah. And it shines through when you're there. You're always smiling and seeming happy. You're not someone
Thank
that's
you.
like, oh, I have to be here today. Like, you don't get that sense at all. So, and
Yeah.
I think that resonates with your employees too. So, you bought an existing business with an established customer base, and they had a set of products and coffee.
Hmm.
But you were really conscious of making changes in a subtle way.
Yeah.
You purchased, like, for example, quieter grinders because you wanted, people to be able to hear themselves having the conversations.
Yeah.
And what challenges have you faced when you started making these changes or adding your own personal touches? Because I know you were really conscious. It's funny. I didn't even know that you had bought the business at first. Like, it was a really quiet,
Yeah.
let's not rock the boat here. Let's just keep,
Yeah.
everyone thinking it's the same old North Perk. So
Yeah.
why did you do that? And like, what challenges did you face when you have been making these little changes?
Well, I didn't want to swoop in and think, I know this, I've got this, I'm going to just make a bunch of changes. And Brittany, who I bought the business from, we both were really happy when we both decided. I said, I don't really want to make a big splash and tell people we bought the business. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was thinking. So she and I were very much in alignment on that transition. So we just kept it quiet because I just didn't want to rock the boat and I wasn't going to change anything out of the gate anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just thought it was really important. She created an amazing business and a great brand. And my goal wasn't to just start putting my own mark on it. It wasn't about me. And I continue to not make myself the face of the coffee shop because
Mm-hmm.
it's not about me at all. So as time went on and I learned, I went to extensive training on coffee and espresso making and all that kind of stuff. So I really needed to learn. I didn't want to, and I had an amazing manager at the time, and she said, "I'm going to stay on with you and help teach you." So she was awesome too, and she was kind of running the business. She eventually transitioned out, and she kind of thought I was ready to fly. Um, she was awesome. I was so grateful for everybody that's part of the shop. And then as time's gone on, I research a lot and I decide, what kind of offerings do we want to have? And then I just continue to invest in different equipment and things that just continue to raise the level. Um, I'll never automate the shop and stuff like that. I don't believe in that. In fact, one of sort of my mentors the other day tried to pitch me an automated espresso machine, coffee maker espresso machine. It was all these push buttons and it all just starts to come out. And I just looked at him, I said, "Are you nuts?" I will never automate the shop. No way.
That's
So
awesome. So you have your values, the things that mean a lot to you in the, your business for making the coffee and having that personal touch.
yeah,
And you're not, what you're not willing to bend on. I love how you kind of sat back and you watched and you learned and you didn't puff up your chest and just come in and be like, all right, this is mine now. And
yeah,
I'm going to do
not
this
at
and I'm going
all.
to do this and I'm going to do that. I think that speaks really highly to the type of person you are as well. Like, you are much more strategic in
Thank
what
you.
you're doing. So,
Yeah,
yeah. And I think that your employees and the community have come to really appreciate that you didn't do that. And I've heard horror stories about small business owners that do sell. And,
yeah,
mostly I hear these stories in the agency world where an
right.
agency owner will sell their business and all of a sudden someone comes in and fires everybody and
Yeah.
changes all their processes. And the person that sold the company is like, what? Like, oh my gosh, I just saw
What'd you
my
do?
everything. Yeah, everything I worked for just crumble
Yeah,
because someone came in and did that. And I think that you've done a really good job at, like, you walk in and it's North Perk. It's North Perk
thank
that
you.
we remember when Brittany had it, except you've added your own personal touches and things that
Yeah.
maybe people don't even notice,
Yeah,
you know?
honestly, I hope mostly they don't. They just notice one day, gosh, this tastes better. This is different.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
certainly a lot of core things to that business that I will never change. The quality of the ingredients we use, it's always sourcing local as much as possible. Really good equipment equipment is half the battle on coffee for sure. It's half the barista, half the equipment, and half the coffee. So three halves.
Yeah. Which, it's a three-legged stool. And without
Yeah,
one of
it
those
is.
legs of the stool, it's like you got crap coffee,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot. And what you know, it's an investment for you to recognize that you have to invest in the equipment. I'm sure it's not cheap to invest in grinders and
No,
really nice equipment too.
it's expensive,
Yeah.
and it makes all the difference in the world. And we get laugh because North Perk also, it's an old building. I swear, if there's a water leak or a piece of equipment that can break, it's going to break at our shop. It's crazy. Last Memorial Day, the entire pump blew in the basement, and I spent 3 days digging or just doing water for 3 days. So
Oh
that's what the
man.
owner does: sits in the basement for 3 days trying to fix a pump spewing water all over the place. But it's just the nature of that shop. It's just there's always some sort of water thing happening or equipment
Yeah.
blowing or the ice makers make tons of ice one day and none the next. So
Yep.
it's
Yep.
the
And
craziest business.
I think that's anyone's business. There are things that happen that behind the scenes the owner's doing that nobody
Yeah,
really sees. And that's what
totally.
makes you a business owner, right? I mean, there's glamorous things about owning a business and lots of not so glamorous things about owning a business. So,
100%.
yeah. All right, let's take a quick ad break and we'll be right back to learn more about North Perk and you leaving your corporate job. A quick shout out to our sponsor, Keep It Real Social, an award winning marketing agency. They're not just marketers, but storytellers, making your business shine. Thanks to Keep It Real Social for empowering us and our listeners in the digital world. For your digital marketing solutions, check out keepitrealsocial.com. Back to Small Biz Big Wins for more insights and inspiration. All right, we are back with Chrissy Smith talking about how she left her 9 to 5 job to become an entrepreneur and literally become a coffee connoisseur. She knows everything and anything about coffee. And so, Chrissy, thanks for being here today, taking the time to share your story. What long term vision do you have for your business? And how is this completely different from where you thought you were going to be 10 years ago when you were thinking about your career and career objectives? I'm sure that, before COVID, you weren't thinking, I'm going to own a coffee shop someday. But
Yeah.
the world throws curveballs at us and things change. So, do you have any long-term visions for the business and how has that changed over the years for you?
Yeah, I sure do. I definitely wondered when I'd have to get out of the marketing and advertising world just based on, age and burnout. So this has been perfect. But yeah, long term, we're going to start doing events soon. So I'm going to sort of apply my event business background to the shop, maybe doing weddings and special events, because I think the world is going a little bit more coffee drinks and cold drinks and a little less. Sometimes people don't always want alcoholic options at events. So I'm moving sort of into that space a little bit more where North Perk can cater and do events. I'd love to open a couple more shops when I'm more full time available to do that. That's on the agenda as well. So knowing what I know, I can start to scale the business more. So I'm kind of excited about that opportunity and sort of where that's going to take us. I don't plan to ever roast my own coffee.
Okay.
I just think that there's a lot of great roasters out there, and that's a whole craft that I think it just takes. It's just a whole amazing craft that I don't see myself doing. And I'm okay with that. I think yeah, I'll continue to source really great coffee and work with the roaster to come up with special blends for the shop and stuff like that and taste it and do the cupping exercises, but I won't become a roaster per se. So, and that's cool.
And it seems like you really know your strengths and weaknesses. And I think for
Yeah.
any entrepreneur listening, small business owner listening, that it's an important thing to do is to realize, all right, there's things I'm good at and there's things I'm not good at. And
Exactly.
you just acknowledging that there's a craft out there for these roasters and they are good at what they do and that you can utilize them and align yourself with them and still have a thriving business is really important. Like,
Yeah.
I know that I am not a graphic artist. I can design a lot of stuff, but I'm not trained in it. So I have to align
Right.
myself with the people that did go to school with it, that are
Yeah.
talented, that is their sweet spot. And I think it's
Yeah.
important for entrepreneurs to know that. And I like how you have your finger on the pulse of where the beverage industry, so to speak, is kind of going, because it's definitely a trend to have these mocktails,
Yeah.
to have the option of not drinking at an event or a special occasion. I remember when it's still trendy to some extent, but when I was having babies and everyone had showers, it was champagne. And now when I attend events, sometimes there's no alcohol.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
good. I
yeah,
mean, or people can mix alcohol with coffee too, but yeah,
absolutely.
I think I apply a lot of my marketing interest in consumer marketing and trends. I love that stuff. I could read trends all the time. So
Yeah, you're
I'm
kind of
always paying
attuned to
attention
that.
to that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're really paying attention to that. And you probably have people that have approached you or asked you, like, oh, well, do you have a boozy coffee, or what would this go well with?
Yeah.
Or maybe whether or not you could, cater or attend an event. And so when you start to tune into that and saying, wow, this is a way for my business to expand,
Yep.
and that also aligns with what I'm really good at, it's kind of
Yeah.
like a win-win.
Yeah, it's been fun. Especially we make cold brew and espresso concentrate for like martinis and stuff like that. So it's a way to sort of hit both audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. So, with like we've talked about your background in marketing and advertising, do you have any tips for small business owners on what they should be doing to kind of help their business? Like, what do you do that helps to market your own business in a small town? I mean, I think this is one thing that small business owners want help with. Obviously, I
Yeah,
own an agency and it keeps growing year after year. It's because small business owners need help with marketing.
they
But
do.
you probably see that probably every day in downtown Petoskey. What advice do you have for someone who is listening and like, all right, what do I need to do?
Well, I think part of it is not being afraid to just do something. Everyone's like, oh, I don't have big budgets. I don't have a lot of money. You don't have to have either one of those things. I think really defining who do you want to reach and figure out where your audience is as a small business. If you are like, I want to reach my audience is always in the car, well, then you might want to consider, 10-second radio spot and a billboard. Or my audience is older and they read the paper. Well, maybe a small print ad or online advertising. Like it doesn't have to be super expensive or challenging. And I obviously think social media is a great way to reach your customers and to stay relevant. And I always say it doesn't have to be precious and perfect and curated. It just has to be authentic and relevant and have your voice. And once you dip your toe in the social media water, just be consistent and don't, do a lot of posts, for a month and then stop for 2 months and then start again. You want to just be consistent once you decide to market your small business. Um, I also think getting really involved in the community and the community events that like the chamber offers and the downtown um, office offers, because they do, the art fairs and the open houses. All of those things are kind of free to participate in, other than opening your shop or throwing out some post or something in your window. So, taking advantage of those sort of freebies, I think is really important too. And it gives you a bigger sense of community, or even like little sponsorships at the parades and stuff like that. All that is very cost effective. Get your name out there, and it also shows the community that you care about the things that they're putting on.
Yeah. I want any small business owner to actually rewind and listen to this again. Like, I think that was really, really solid advice. And
Thank you.
one thing that I can tell you're in marketing and advertising in the past, that is one thing we always talk to our potential customers about, and our customers is about that target market, knowing
Yeah,
where your customers are, where do they spend their time, what do they look like,
yeah,
what do they spend their money on, and just the example of in the car, like if they're always in the car, maybe a podcast, sponsoring a podcast is a great way
yeah,
because they're listening to podcasts, maybe, like honing in on what they're doing, what their interests are. And a lot of people just skip right over that, and it's
yeah.
hard for you to market if you don't know who you're marketing to.
It's so true. I mean, even in my business, if I'm starting to not see as many young people, then I might do a post about iced chais because they like to drink that a lot. I'm like, oh, I got to
Hmm.
get some more young people in. Let's promote some of the ice drinks. Or I haven't seen some older folks in lately. Let's promote the fact we have great single origin coffee and you can sit down and relax, like whatever, you look at your business and go, God, who would I like to get in here? What do they like? And then just promoting that.
Yeah.
That's how I approach it.
No, that's great advice. And I like how you also talk about, the importance of social media, but that it doesn't have to be this perfect curated, content where you've spent an hour having a
Yeah.
professional photographer come in and take, 100 shots of one cup of coffee.
Yeah.
That you can get a really good shot using your iPhone and have a, cute, savvy caption talking to that ideal customer. And it's all
Yeah.
about how you create that caption. Who are you talking to? And I think that's
Yeah.
important too. But people get so overwhelmed thinking,
They
oh my
do.
gosh, I can't do this. All I have is my phone, or I'm not a
Yeah.
photographer, or I'm not a writer. I can't do this. And you're saying you can, you're probably overcomplicating it. And if you are overcomplicating it, you just call Keep It Real Social and they'll take care of it for you. But
Exactly.
it is something you can do as a small business owner. You just don't have to be so scared of it.
Yeah, totally. I
Yeah, and
agree.
consistency. That was actually one of the kind of moments where I realized, wow, like North America is all of a sudden having some really great social media. And I was going to message Brittany and say, you're doing such a good job on your social media. And
Oh,
someone
that's
said,
funny.
it's not, she doesn't own it anymore. And I'm like, what? Like, what is going on here? Okay, this, makes sense. So that was one of the indicators for me, like, okay, somebody new is in here. Someone is taking charge of this marketing and it's going really well. So,
Well, thank you.
you do a good job with it.
Thanks.
So, based on your journey, and it definitely sounds like a journey, what advice would you give to somebody that's considering leaving their corporate job and starting their own business?
Um, I guess it's okay to do it and to try it. I think people find what they like and just study it and sort of learn the craft or. I don't think it's as intimidating and scary as people think. I just started learning and and I got lucky that I was able to buy an existing business and I did start a different shop that I'm not going to talk about right now, but I didn't know anything about that business either. And again, I went, found the right people, learned it, studied it. And you make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I'll forget to order something, do something. I don't know how like all the computer systems and POS systems drive me crazy and credit card processing. I knew nothing about that stuff. So,
Yeah,
I just pick up the phone. I'm not afraid to call someone, ask for help, use resources that are available. But if you have a passion for something, whether it's food or wine or you're a really good woodworker or whatever, I think as long as you can take the time to learn and to figure out where you want to be and how you want to do it, I don't think anybody should be intimidated to take the leap and follow their passion.
and it just might be that they try something and it's not for them, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
We can always go back to the 9 to 5 or try a different business for them.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
I think the world's gotten much more open to a lot of different businesses and working from home and doing things that are a little bit more unconventional. So
sure.
it's
And
kind
there's
of
a
fun.
lot of
It's a fun
ways.
time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways to start a business while you're still working your corporate job. If there's
Oh yeah,
not a moonlighting clause where you're not allowed to, or et cetera. Always look at what you're allowed and not allowed to do. But there are ways to start your own business while you have that stable income. And in your situation, it just so happened that COVID kind of was the catalyst for
yeah.
you to do this. But let's not have another COVID for
No
people to
thanks.
take yeah, to take that, opportunity. But if it's something that really is pulling at your heartstrings and you're like, I really want to do this, don't let yourself be intimidated and not take that leap.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, So I ask all my guests one final question, and that is, what big win have you had in business that you can share to inspire others? So this can be something that's monetary, it can be meeting a sales goal, a customer testimonial, an award you won, anything.
Oh gosh.
It's a
Oh
big
God.
question.
It is a big question.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to have a lot of corporate wins, and I worked really hard in that world and getting some cool awards and stuff like that. But I will say, probably feeling a sense of community in Petoskey and finding a way to, I really, really like providing something that the community can enjoy at a high quality. And I get so excited when I walk in our shop and I see all the tables full of people connecting, talking, hugging, playing cards. I see the same people every single day. That is absolutely to me like my personal win in life. It just makes me feel really good to have a place that people can, like an old school gathering place that I think got sort of lost for a few years there. And I think coffee shops are a little bit of a lost art with everything going automated and drive-throughs. And
Mhm.
I'm very proud of that accomplishment that the business, after I got it, continued to grow and thrive. And I'm looking forward to continuing that because I think it's just so important for the people in the town, the kids, the high schoolers that come in after school, to the business people, to just the families that come in and sit and have coffee on a Sunday morning after church. So that's my big win in life, I think right now.
That's awesome. It definitely seems like North Perk has really filled your cup,
It has.
personally.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's filled your cup. Like you're able to have fun, but that you have that sense of community. And I can definitely speak to that being the case when you walk into North Perk. Every time I go to North Perk, I see fellow business owners and community members and friends, and sometimes I run into my family. And
Yeah.
it's always fun that we're all like going to the same place in our local town to get the same thing and enjoy, great cup of coffee. And some of us are hurrying off to our jobs. Some of us are going to sit down and work there. Some of us are going to sit and have a conversation or listen to a podcast or read a book. But we're all kind of coming to the central hub.
Yeah.
And, and I do really enjoy that. Just
Thank you.
being, a business owner and a community member, it's a fun gathering place that sometimes accidentally turns into gatherings. So
Yeah.
it's really great. Yeah. And I do think that did get lost for a while
Yeah.
there.
It did.
Not by choice, right? But when
Right.
it got lost, it's fun to see it come back into our community
Yeah.
and be that little, I guess, heart of the
Yeah.
community, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
And I have plans to help this more seating. I have plans for making it a little bit more comfortable at times with some couches. So there's a lot of long-term design plans that will all foster that sense of gathering and community. So
yeah, I have no doubt that that's definitely going to happen, especially hearing you say that that is your big win and it fills your cup. I think you're just going to keep giving back to the
thank
community in
you.
that way. So,
Absolutely.
well, Chrissy, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing
Thank
your
you,
experience.
Summer.
Yes, you've shared your experience, your expertise. I know you're busy. You have to get back to making those lattes. Um, I just love your passion for what you do. It shows in every cup of coffee and the smiles on the crew that work for you.
Thank you.
Um,
I'm blessed for sure with the greatest crew.
they are pretty spectacular. So, and
Yeah,
they
they
make
are.
darn good coffee. So,
They're
thanks again.
trained.
They are trained well, and the equipment helps. Like you said, it's that three-legged stool for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for tuning in to Small Biz Big Wins. We'll return next week with another motivating and helpful episode. And don't miss out. Subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you love what you are hearing, make sure that you drop us a review. It would mean so much to us. And did you know that when you leave us a review, it helps other small businesses find the podcast as well? So let's spread some love, subscribe, and drop a review.